Hi, this is Bill Kearns from Blue Kernel IT. This project is the TestSerializer library. It's part of Academic Test Demo. This project is compiled as a DLL and it's shared between any client or any end tier that would want to utilize the end tier functionality or functionality from Academic Test Demo as a helper. I chose to put just a few things in here. First, we'll look at the resource files. Here's the test.xsd file I wrote. This defines the XML elements that are in the test. It's very basic. So I have an enumeration. You can choose A, B, C, or D. So the letter choices. I do have a name and a test version. And I have an optional hint and some attributes that go along with the element question. The question text, its elements, etc. Here's an instance of that XSD. Notice I'm using the prefix A. This is because Microsoft.NET Framework requires elements to have a namespace prefix if they're imported to be serialized. It's one of those caveats. So here I have the TestSerializer. Before I wrote this, actually, I used xsd.exe to generate the C# Proco. If you notice, really important attribute here, serializable attribute. This comes de facto when you use xsd.exe. What this class does is enables very quick conversion between an XML file and a dataset. So that's using xsd.exe. Down the road, when I use the test, I actually store it in the database in this form, and when I'm ready to use it in a web front end, I transform it. So here's the XSLT file that I use to transform the test. This numbers the questions and adds a field set, so it takes the XML representation and turns it into HTML, or actually XHTML. I am adding a custom attribute, a question ID, and the other one, a answer ID. So here, what's next? TestSerializer. Here's TestSerializer, it's a serializer class. I have the original XML document I use in memory, the fragments that are then converted. I have a namespace manager, schema set, and the paged questions. I chose to use a delegate. This is the only spot I did because the whole idea is to take this XML file after it's out of the database and in this form and run its transform, and then take that result XML file and make it pageable, which is what I did in the first video in the ASP.NET application as the student was taking the test. I wrote a delegate for that. That way, anywhere this serializable library is used, you have a delegate that is destination independent, meaning if you're in a website and you need a string array that's HTML, you could just have your HTML strings, which this would be questions formatted as HTML after the transform is ran. Or you could use the delegate and transform it to whatever you'd like that implements iPageable. So further on down, I have a serialized functionality, deserialized functionality. Here's where I run a transform. I put in the original XML document, I get an XML document back that is actual valid XHTML. And here's where it would call if there's a delegate hooked up to where this project is imported. And here I just have some helper methods, and here's a helper method to resolve the directory root. That way, this resource files, these are copied into the runtime. and some of the methods used to build the test serializer, each place it's used. So you can add to the namespace manager, etc. And here's some serialization events. And another helper method, a static method. So here is some of the code from the endpoint. Going into this right now because it uses the TestSerializer. If you noticed, I've imported the TestSerializer library project as an existing project into this solution, so that this DLL is the original, the real project that's used by other projects. This is how you'd use it. So you can just add to the namespace manager, add your XSD file, give it an XML root, what the name of the root element is, and then you can use the serialize and deserialize functionality provided by this class. The other class that's here worth mentioning is TestDB data sources. This is a singleton, so I have a private construct and a static method here where I pass in the connection string. I have isolated a spot to insert the connection string, though I use TestDB data source in 2 of the 4 projects. Anywhere using get connection, that's where you assign the connection string. It's just good to have one isolated spot for that. So in the class is a singleton. Beyond that, it serves as a DAL, a data access layer. It's a pretty common paradigm. So these methods mirror the stored procedures that are in the database and run commands. At this tier, I could add transactional management. Whether I use the begin and end transactions or the transactional management within the stored procedure, or I could modify each of these data access layer methods to return an object that would then run a command as a transaction. Either one would be an avenue of adding transactional management. Everything else here is pretty standard. One method would be the serialization of a test. Here I'm getting the XML test. And here I have a static class with a static extension method to prune off. I'm storing the serialized test as 4096. 4096 bits in length for optimization. Another reason I chose to serialize this and store the serialized test is because it's very fast. The test deserializes the zeros and ones directly into the object that I generated from xsd.exe. So, thanks for your time. This is Bill Kearns from Blue Kernel IT. Take care.